Hopefully you can all see that okay. So I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you today from Gubbi Gubbi country, an incredible region on the Sunshine Coast in southeast Queensland. This is the beautiful Maroochydore River, not far from where I am now, and one of the locations where a lot of this research has really emerged. I'd also like to acknowledge Lyndon Davis, Gubbi Gubbi songman and artist here on Gubbi Gubbi country, who I've had a real privilege to work with over many, many years, and who will feature in a number of the projects that I'm going to discuss in this session today. Now, if we kind of get a sense of where we are in southeast Queensland, this is a location where I've been really privileged to live and work for many years here on Gubbi Gubbi country. And we've had some pretty wild and extreme weather of late, some incredible storms. And I just wanted to start with a really brief, deep listening experience, just giving you a sense of what Gubbi Gubbi country sounds like. So I just encourage you to close your eyes and just listen for a moment. Going to gently fade that out. I just wanted to bring in some sound to start us off to really situate us in the locations that I'm going to be talking about. So, as Lisa said in the opening, my background is working with acoustic ecology and ecoacoustics, and I started off as a composer and sound designer and really moved into this field of trying to understand what we can learn from listening to the environment, both from scientific and creative perspective. So I've been really lucky to work in a range of different community contexts, really exploring how we can engage with the sounds of the environment to really learn about environmental health and how we can create these immersive experiences and community engagement projects that really can engage and inspire us to connect with place in new ways. So I've been lucky to work in various ecosystems and have really been more recently reflecting on different ways to engage communities in these ecosystems and what we're really listening to and connecting with, and what these sounds really mean to the health of the environment. And so, just as a brief snapshot, this has involved anything from really site specific sound walks that are live mixed as a performance, which almost feel like this transient performance moving through the environment, a whole range of geolocated sound walks, site-specific performances and installations connecting with sounds we don't traditionally have access to, like this geodesic dome that was on Mooloolaba Beach, mixing the soundscapes of aquatic ecosystems. And I really wanted to start off with, I guess, a few framing ideas that connect the foundation of all of these projects, really inspired by some of the provocations that Lisa gave us for this seminar series, and thinking about how this really connects to my own creative practice as well. So basically everything in these projects is really underpinned by this idea of listening, what it means to listen, these explorations in non-human listening as well, how we can create these experiences as to what it might feel like listening from the perspective of a spider or listening from the perspective of a humpback whale. But for me, I really I guess, see listening as this active participation, care, and connection, this embodied invitation in these creative projects to really engage with these living systems. And um, the creative projects are really intended to foster this sense of ecological empathy through sound and creativity. And I was really inspired by these provocations around sound ecologies because it connects into this work that I've been exploring through sonic ecologies, which is a framework that kind of evolved out of my PhD, which was really about embedding a creative project within a community in a really site specific context and exploring how, through this relational creativity and through this long term engagement with a place and a community, it could influence these education frameworks, community partnerships, and eventually policy. So I really see this as a relational place based framework that is, cultivating ecological empathy and multi species responsibility through listening and creativity. And I guess for me, this really underpins everything I do, whether it's a one off performance in a new location or some of these larger scale projects. And this idea of multi species justice, really been reflecting on the last couple of weeks in particular. But in these projects, for me, sound becomes a way of recognizing the agency of more than human worlds, whether I'm encouraging people to engage with sound beyond our perception, or aquatic ecosystems in new ways. These are experiences where, for me, deep listening becomes a place-based practice where care, reciprocity, and responsibility can really inspire ecological empathy, engagement, and action. So, broadly, this idea of ecoacoustics as an interdisciplinary field, in the context of these projects, it becomes not just a creative and scientific tool, but I think a real way of acknowledging injustice and cultivating this sense of reciprocity. And I want to just dive into this notion of reciprocity a tiny bit more, because this is something that's really sat at the core of many of these projects. Lisa mentioned at the start the Creative Ecologies Research Cluster that we've been developing here on Gubbi Gubbi Country. We've really used this frame of reciprocity in everything that we're doing, and we've recently themed a conference around this idea, and it really sits at the core of these projects. I see this as the heart of my approach to creative practice, this kind of continual relational practice with place, community, and the more than human world. This idea at the core of how these creative projects can, I guess, not impose any harm or have a negative impact. And this was early in my creative practice, I guess, a big challenge and a contradiction in some ways, where some of the works I was developing involved a lot of touring, involved a lot of technology, and were perhaps having a negative impact in some contexts. So I've really placed a strong focus on that in the last few years in thinking about, the real intention at the heart of this work, and that shared ecological responsibility. So I just wanted to, I guess, start with some of those framing ideas, and now I'm going to dive into a bit of a snapshot of those two broad overarching projects and some really recent work here on Bachelor and Gubbi Gubbi Country. And all of these projects are kind of connected around these three dots here, which kind of represent the three UNESCO biosphere reserves in the region where I'm currently living and working. A really unique place. There's only 5 biosphere reserves in Australia, and 3 of them are here side by side in southeast Queensland. We have the incredible Great Sandy Biosphere Reserve with a place like Gari, an incredible biodiverse location on Bachelor Country and a really rich place to listen and connect with place. To other locations like the Noosa Biosphere Reserve, which has been a really, I guess, fundamental location in the development of these two large projects. Biosphere Soundscapes started in the Noosa Biosphere Reserve as a way to really start to explore the acoustic ecology of biosphere reserves through sound, but how this could be a method to really connect the community to conservation in biosphere reserves and understand biosphere reserves in new ways. So we've done everything from running these participatory acoustic ecology experiences, field recording masterclasses, residencies, touring creative projects, and a whole spectrum of bioacoustic and ecoacoustic research projects, really pushing forward the science of understanding the environment through sound. Now, these creative outcomes have been presented everywhere, from trying to map the Central Amazon Biosphere Reserve over Times Square in New York, to mapping those soundscapes of the Central Amazon over the Eiffel Tower for COP21 in Paris, and really bringing those voices of the Central Amazon to such an important climate meeting like COP21. And then really exploring the kind of impact and engagement of these experiences, how the ripple effect of these creative projects has really impacted communities over time, and to see how those creative projects can kind of resonate in different ways. To back here in the Sunshine Coast Biosphere Reserve, exploring these different models of site-specific performance and engagement. This notion of these live mixed transient performances where we have hydrophones in the river, Brent Miller here playing Didge as part of a Welcome to Country, and mixing these soundscapes that we don't traditionally have access to as the audience moves through space. And hydrophones have been a really integral tool in my creative practice to explore the sounds beneath the surface and to find new ways to really engage communities in listening beneath the surface of rivers, of oceans, of lakes. And this has been a real catalyst for pushing some of those scientific possibilities as well. And that was really the start of the River Listening Project, exploring the cultural and biological diversity of global river systems through sound. We were lucky to work with rivers in different parts of the world, from frozen rivers in Norway to very polluted rivers in parts of China, to rivers here in southeast Queensland that have such incredible biodiversity that have almost acted as a lab to develop these creative projects and different methods for listening to rivers. And the real core creative outcome from the vast majority of these river listening projects has been developing these geolocated sound walks, where the sounds beneath the surface of the river and the contributions from the community are geolocated through these compositions along the river system. We've been developing these live streaming kits that enable communities to listen to rivers in real time and really connect with the voice of the rivers as it changes throughout the day, and ensuring this is really accessible and inclusive for local communities, which has involved everything from bringing those live streams into aged care facilities to running these workshops, making hydrophones with kids in the community. So this idea of listening to a river and listening to place becomes accessible. And in parallel to this, developing these creative projects, we've really tried to push the scientific foundations of freshwater ecoacoustics as a really non-invasive, accessible and affordable way to monitor river health. And I'm really excited to say that that scientific field has really taken off in the last few years. In particular, there's now loads of freshwater ecologists and biologists in different parts of the world really advancing this field now, which is super exciting. But for me, that interdisciplinarity is really at the heart of this work, and how we can engage communities in these relational experiences of listening and connecting with rivers to inspire that sense of care. And, this all comes back to those ideas that I was talking about at the start around that kind of fundamental way of thinking about listening as a tool for care and connection and reciprocity. And this image was taken by Trisha King, who's one of my main collaborators here on Gubbi Gubbi Country. This is Lyndon Davis pictured again. And this was a project we did called Listening in the Wild through COVID, which really looked at ways that we could visit a site, a really significant site on Gubbi Gubbi Country, and create these sonic experiences and photographs that could immerse people in connecting with this location through a live streamed experience. So we had hydrophones and various microphones in these environments. Lyndon was telling these incredible Gubbi Gubbi stories and playing didge through the water, and we created these immersive experiences that were streamed online, and we're really experimenting with different ways to engage people. We did this the Maroochy River, and here was the third one in the series where we were out in the ocean around Majimba Island. This is Lyndon actually listening to the sound of humpback whales for the first time. Now, humpback whales, the word in Gubbi Gubbi language for humpback whale is talobilla. And this was a pretty incredible experience. And we were talking about, how we can really collaborate with these soundscapes in real time, how we can create that sense of care and connection for everyone that was back on the mainland that doesn't know that this incredible migration is happening, but also this amazing biodiversity that's in the reefs around Majimba Island as well. So we started to explore these different experiences of actually bringing audiences out on boats and creating these immersive experiences where it's completely unpredictable. Hydrophones, an array of hydrophones is basically installed around the boat. Everyone's wearing these networked headphones, and we're traveling to different locations and live mixing this performance. Lyndon welcomes us to sea country when we're out on the ocean. Of course, sometimes these have been really calm, and other times it's been incredibly rough out there in the ocean. But creating this way for communities to connect to these changing soundscapes and connect to the ocean in a completely different way, and to be collaborating with these soundscapes beneath the surface and really embracing that unpredictability as well. And just in the most recent migration season, we've had some pretty magical experiences of this as well. Now, this is Majimba Island, which is the island that I mentioned that has that incredible biodiversity around it. But when we were out there on one of these trips, we had this idea around the Talobilla project to really look at ways to visualize that sound and to connect the audience to what was happening beneath the surface in a really unique way. And through this ongoing work with Lyndon Davis and Trisha King, we've been running a project called Biali, which means to call. And it's really about bringing attention to different species on Gubbi Gubbi Country. And through that project, we've been developing these different cymatic techniques, digital cymatics, to visualize the calls of wildlife. And so what we wanted to do, which was quite an ambitious concept, was to be able to anchor the boat near the island, have all of the hydrophones in the water, and basically project these live visualizations of humpback whale song, basically play the whale song in real time through one of Lyndon's paintings. And Horizon Festival were generous enough to agree to this very, very ambitious idea. And this was us scouting some of the locations initially. This was the boat that we used, supported by Sunreef here on the Sunshine Coast. where we took an audience of about 200 people. This one sold out miraculously quick, to the point that we were all a bit terrified how we were actually going to pull this off. But yeah, we had the array of hydrophones up either side of the boat. This was the moment where we had hydrophones mixing into our system and we could hear the whales for the first time. And we had projector up on the top deck. Lyndon was playing Didge through the system as well, and we could really hear the whales responding to this sound in quite a powerful way as well. And so those visualizations were projected over the island and really immerse people in this kind of one-off experience of um, connecting to the ocean in what most people on the trip described as a way that they hadn't really experienced before, and having this depth of understanding of the kind of cultural significance of the humpback whale through Lyndon's knowledge and cultural sharing, but being able to listen in real time and connect in a performance that could have gone in any direction. I mean, it was entirely possible that we wouldn't hear any whales, or the level of unpredictability and all of the things that could potentially go wrong in something like this is quite high. So that was, yeah, a really special experience. This is an image of Lyndon's Talabilla painting. And as everyone boards the boat, we give them one of these augmented reality cards where you can scan that QR code and actually bring the painting to life with some of the AR that's projected over the island. And really, I guess, alerting the audience to the unpredictability of those experiences as well. To ensure that this is really accessible and inclusive, we have made a whole range of other experiences of the Talabilla project, from these kind of immersive 16 channel installations in the cave here at UniSC, to projection works that have been exhibited in various buildings and galleries, to these more outdoor specific sound, site specific sound experiences as well. And this has really expanded this year in looking at connecting these migration patterns of the humpback whale across Gubbi Gubbi and Bachelor country, so connecting that other biosphere reserve in the Great Sandy Strait. And so I've really been exploring these deep listening experiences and these site-specific pieces with these live streaming hydrophones with audiences along the shore as well. So one of the things that we do at UniSC is bring all of our students to the Gari Research Station quite regularly for immersive experiences and some of their courses. And so one of the things that we have started to do is, when we arrive on the island, the first thing everyone is invited to do is take their shoes off and connect with the ocean. And wearing, again, some of these networked headphones, I'm live mixing the sounds of whether it's live hydrophones beneath the surface or some of our pre-recorded material from the Great Sandy Biosphere Reserve, and also bringing in Arnie Joyce Bonner's voice, who is a Bachelor elder who's given us permission to develop this work as an acknowledgement of country when we arrive on the island. And Arnie Joyce was really inspired by this idea of how we could acknowledge country and welcome people in a virtual experience that is really connecting to the sounds out in the ocean and around the whole of Gari as well. So this deep listening experience lasts for about 15 or 20 minutes. It's a one-off experience, all mixed live, and is this way to kind of connect people to you know, the non-humans on Gari as well, and Gari as this kind of living, breathing, incredible ecosystem, and how transformational that can be for someone to arrive at a place and have that moment of connection and deep listening. Now, the final project I'm going to chat about briefly, I'm just checking that, 2 minutes left. Excellent, thank you. The final project I want to chat about briefly is my, I guess, latest work. This is a piece called Tidal Motion. It's commissioned by an organization called experimenter. It's currently touring around Australia at the moment as part of Experimenter's national tour. And this may look a little bit abstract where you're looking at it here, but this was really, I guess, my latest exploration of exploring ways that we can connect with Gari remotely, connecting with this idea of deep listening, listening from non-human perspectives as well, but really creating these embodied experiences. So this chair has transducers in it, so the sound of Gari actually plays through your body. When you sit in the chair, you can put the headphones on that are there. You're listening to a live mix which is controlled by the tides of Gari. So the tidal changes are influencing the sound, so you're getting this real-time mix, whether it's high tide or low tide. Listening to those sounds above and below the surface and really becoming immersed in that real-time tidal data and hearing some of those non-human voices of Gari as well. Now, the experience itself, this idea of kind of sitting in a chair in a gallery environment, this was part of our installs, but the images you can see are drone images from the same location as the hydrophones, and they're actually playing over the listener. So you actually become part of the environment with this drone flowing over you as you're sitting in this chair and having the sounds of Gari actually play through your body. Now, as I'm sure many of you know, it can be quite challenging to encourage people to listen in a gallery environment, predominantly visual art spaces. So it can be quite challenging to get people to really spend time with a work and put headphones on and listen for any extended period of time. And I've been really, I guess, inspired by this project just to see how that engagement shifts. When people put on the headphones and sit in the chair, they are tending to spend a decent amount of time listening and coming away kind of connecting and reflecting on Gari in a different way. So I'm really interested to explore these kind of experiences much further in how we can create that kind of deep connection and reciprocity with place, particularly in contexts where we don't necessarily have access to those places or ecosystems that urgently need our care and protection. I will finish there. Thank you.